Want to make a difference in your community but not sure how? Go to GoFundMe.com right now and start a GoFundMe. Seriously. Your next fundraiser doesn't have to start in a school parking lot or a church basement. You can start a GoFundMe today in just minutes. Fundraise for yourself, a friend or family member, or an organization. All that matters is that you care about them. GoFundMe is the trusted place to fundraise for what you care about. With no pressure to hit your fundraising goal, but tons of tools to help you reach it, you can confidently start fundraising right now. Whether it's creative, local, or critical, your cause matters. And there's a reason why GoFundMe is backed by millions and chosen by fundraisers everywhere. It works, and it matters. GoFundMe helps you make a real difference. Start your GoFundMe today at GoFundMe.com. That's GoFundMe.com. GoFundMe.com. This is a commercial message brought to you by GoFundMe.
In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 3 of Freedom Fools on WBSM, where we talk about a lot of freedom issues. You know, we had a caller during hour number 2 who brought up something interesting, and I think I want to bring it up during hour number 3. He stated term limits, and he wanted 8-year term limits. Now, I self-impose 10 years. So if you've been in office for 10 years or longer, the same office for 10 years or longer, I'm not going to vote for you. It doesn't matter what party you are from. That is something I've held all century. All century. I know somebody saying that's only 25 years. Well, it took me 25 years to develop that, and I'm sure if I go back, there are times that I may have voted for someone who had been in office longer than 10 years, but it may have been a U.S. senator, not from this state. I don't think I voted for. Oh, no. Well, the senator that I did vote for from this state, he didn't last that long, but be that as it may. 508-996-0500. So term limits. Is that something that's going to draw people to the polls? Maybe that's, we started off the show talking about the fact that voter turnout for the preliminary election in the city of New Bedford is looking around 6%. How abysmal. But it's a preliminary election. They're thinking this Sylvia's mother said Sylvia's, whatever that song is. She was guesstimating Sherry Silva Santos. Guesstimating turned out to be 6% for the preliminary and double that, 12% for the municipal election. Although weather can play a role. Yeah, I guess it can. I have no idea what the weather is supposed to be like on Tuesday, and who wants to predict 4 Tuesdays or 5 Tuesdays after that? Not me. As I said, I self-impose term limits. I don't need a law that says that we have term limits. I know many people believe that that's a good fix-it. I don't know that it really draws more people to the polls. Maybe it does. If there were term limits, whether we're talking city elections, state elections, or the congressional, senatorial, or the president already has 8 years, is that going to drive you? If you're listening and you don't vote, you probably don't want to talk right now, but are you more apt to vote if there are term limits? Or are you like me, more apt to vote because there are ballot questions that tickle your fancy. I look at the candidates, and quite frankly, most of the time, there is nothing appealing to me. And I, talk about my town. I'll vote for somebody new if I know a little bit about the person. I'll vote for the incumbent if the incumbent hasn't been in for 10 years or longer. But by and large, we don't really, unless you are with those particular candidates, you don't really get to know because, quite frankly, even if you're reading the local Dartmouth paper, you don't really know that much about your select board member. You know that select board member as well as you know your dog catcher. And so I'm not sure that if there were term limits, that's going to change who I am because I self-impose term limits. And I wish other people would, but, to each their own. And one of the reasons why, if there were a question for term limits, I wouldn't vote for it because I do believe that people have their right to vote in a candidate who's been in office for 15, 20, 25, 30 years, if that's what they really want to do. I think that candidate should be done in 10 or, as we have with the U.S. Senate, done in 12 years. But that's a personal opinion. When we start saying that nobody else can run for that particular office after 10 years, now all of a sudden we're leaving the federal government, we're leaving state government up to the power brokers that really run things. The people that pay money to be lobbyists, they'll just wait for the next group of folks to come in. And by the way, those that are elected to office, that leave office, they're prime candidates to become the next lobbyist. So I hear the frustration. I'm not sure that it's the answer. And maybe there's more than one answer that's necessary. But it's out there. If you think term limits need to be voted on in order to make the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our federal government work better, love to hear your reasoning how that's going to happen. We've heard one. But like I said, I hear the frustration. Certainly the city of New Bedford could, let's see, Burgo hasn't been in that long. Abreu is right up against it. Gomes, he breaks the Richter scale. Carney, I'm not exactly sure where she is in all of this, but she's got to be close to 10 years. And then all the others are newbies. And if you look at the school committee, there's a name on here that I don't see. And I thought that Bruce Oliveira was going to be running for one of the at-large seats. I don't see his name on this list. Maybe does anybody know, is Bruce Oliveira in the race for at-large New Bedford City Councilor? I thought he was. That could have been a while ago. All right, the Gaza thing. Hamas. Look, we've listened to ABC. You can believe ABC or you could not believe ABC. I think we have a tendency to like whichever network that we like. I'm one of those that goes through quite a few networks, and I also peruse the YouTube for independent journalists. And when I say independent journalists, they're usually people that used to, like me, who used to be in the major media, and they have left the major media for one reason or another. This one is from the BBC. So you're saying, why go outside? Because sometimes going outside the country, you can get a better feel for what others are saying or how they're reporting. Hamas has agreed to release all the remaining Israeli hostages, but says it wants further negotiations on a number of key points outlined in the U.S. peace plan. In a statement, the group said it agreed, and here's the quote, to release all Israeli prisoners, both living and dead, according to the exchange formula contained in President Trump's proposal. Close quote. Now, I think this is key because quite often, as the reporter Catherine Armstrong with the BBC wrote, Hamas has agreed to release all the remaining Israeli hostages. And if you listen to Fox, Newsmax, MSNBC, you listen to any of the U.S. major networks, you hear the same word, Israeli hostages. It is my understanding that the people that are still in custody, Hamas custody, are members of the Israeli military. And if that is true, then they are not hostages. They are, as Hamas wrote in their release, to release all Israeli prisoners, both living and dead. Now, there may be hostages that died. That part is unclear. But it is my understanding of the living, they are folks that are in Israeli uniforms. And why does that make a difference? Because when you hear the term hostage, you know that somebody's been taken against their will, but you're thinking of a civilian. You're not thinking of people that may have tried to shoot at the other side and they got captured. And Hamas has been upfront about this. Their aim on October 7th was to get in, disrupt, kill if they have to, but to also take prisoners, as in military prisoners, for the exchange that you have read about, that will probably happen when if a deal is consummated here. They don't want civilians. They did end up with civilians, but the civilians weren't their target. Hamas has come out and stated this. I don't know if you've heard it before or if you believe it. But if you're looking at things from the Hamas side of the street, which I know is difficult for all of us, it makes sense that the bounty of a soldier is supposedly more than the bounty of a civilian. Just think about it that way. Hopefully that's clear enough. That was their intent. And it's my understanding that there were renegades that also worked with Hamas on October 7th, and they're the ones that ended up taking the civilians. And Hamas was looking around wondering, what are we going to do with all these people? And they did try to give some of them up, and the Israelis didn't take them at that time. Now, I'd love to say that I'm making this up, but it has been reported. Just maybe not on MSNBC or Fox or CNN or any of the other networks that you regularly peruse. So I know that it seems the indications are, in the way that it's been stated, is that Hamas is going to release the hostages. We can use the term hostage for the sake of conversation, but it's my understanding that nobody's getting released until some of these other finer points dealing with the 20-point plan are clarified and ironed out. So, in other words, the plan that President Trump put forward is more looked at as a starting point. And Hamas has again come out and stated, yeah, we're ready to release the prisoners. But let me ask you this. Why would Hamas agree to give up their weapons? What tactical point would that mean? Hamas is not surrendering, to the best of my knowledge. And yet, if you look at the document, and I've seen and heard experts highlight certain parts of the 20-point plan, and it does make it sound like, well, Hamas needs to do this, Hamas needs to do that, Israel may do this, Israel may do that. As if to say, Hamas, you have lost the war. And I don't think Hamas is looking at it from the standpoint that they're on the losing end of the stick. They know that the area is constantly under bombardment. And maybe they didn't plan for it to last for 2 years the way that it has. But if you look at it from the objectives that Israel set out to do, number one, did they get the hostages? Only through the peace plans that were negotiated did they get any hostage. Doing what they have done, the constant bombardment, that hasn't worked. What else? They're trying to take over all of Gaza. I think we can readily see that right now. They're not letting aid in. I think everybody knows that. They have taken more civilians captive right now, and they being Israel, they're trying to prove that flotilla was full of people that were sympathizers with Hamas, as opposed to saying that these are people that are trying to feed and bring aid to the weary Palestinians. And at one time, Israel was showing videos of one of the boats that they took over just the past 36 hours and saying there are no supplies here. When in fact, I got to hand it to the folks on the flotilla. They did videos prior to the ships leaving, making their way over, to prove that there were supplies on there and the type of supplies that there were. They did videos of the people that are on the boat, and certain videos would be shown. For instance, when the Israelis hijacked these boats within the flotilla, videos were automatically released stating who the person is, where the person was from, and if you're seeing this video, that means that Israel has come and commandeered our boat, and that person has been taken captive. So, I don't know that Israel didn't plan for any of this to happen, but one thing's for sure, Israel is trying to make people believe that folks would be out there risking their lives on these boats from all over the world, coming in and not bringing in supplies and really being some type of fortress for Hamas. And I think what we're seeing right now is that folks, maybe not here in the United States, but certainly around the world, if you look at the protests that are going on in Europe, Italy pretty much shut down everything on Friday as a protest to what's going on in Gaza. And there are a couple of other protests. I believe one may have been in Spain, just to show some type of solidarity. And I am hoping that this time around, if the president is really telling Israel to stop the bombing of Gaza, that he means it, that this isn't one of his little ploys like he did with Iran and Doha. What would that be? The Qatar. A couple of weeks ago, where basically he's giving the green light for Israel to try to bomb the negotiators from Hamas. Why do you bomb the negotiators? You want to try to negotiate a settlement, don't you? Or maybe to the point that Israel doesn't want to negotiate. My guess is Bibi Netanyahu right now is besides himself. He doesn't know what to think. Look, if there is a ceasefire in Gaza right now, what is he supposed to do? How does he protect his hide? Because Israelis are coming after him. The Israeli courts are going after him. And quite frankly, he might be able to travel to the United States. But Bibi can't go to many places in the world right now because there is an order for his arrest. So what is he going to do? And here's the other thing that he's got to worry about. He's got to worry about elections taking place in Israel, which could actually knock him out of office. I don't think that would be a bad thing. I have long been a supporter of Israel and Israel's right to exist. But I am also a staunch supporter of the Palestinian right to statehood. I don't know what's going to happen with all of the negotiations and fine points and I's dotted and T's crossed that are going to happen, whether it's with this 20-point plan or some other plan. I don't know that the bombing is going to stop or not rekindle. But the one thing that I can say to you fairly positively is that 5, 10, 20, 40 years down the road, all of those benchmarks that I just meant, what Hamas has done is going to be textbook for future wars. How to sustain, how to build tunnels the way that they built tunnels. Remember, 80% of the tunnels have been destroyed. Look, if anything, 80% of the tunnels are still around. They were going to flood the tunnels out and shut them down that way, bring in salt water. I don't know how these tunnels were built, but however way that they were built, they did an excellent job. And by the way, I think one of the 20-point plans is for Hamas to destroy the tunnels. Now, you think that's what they're going to do? Why would that even be in the plan? destroy the tunnels. I can't see that happening. Maybe you can. You're looking at it differently than Hamas is looking at it. Hamas is sitting there and saying, look, they haven't beaten us. It's not that we're winning, but we didn't lose. And if you go back to Vietnam, those that can remember Vietnam, we napalmed the hell out of Vietnam. When push came to shove, who ended up victorious? Because the Vietnamese, and I think Hamas and the Palestinians will tell you the same thing. They have an ideology of wanting to survive in their own backyard. And some of us might call them terrorists. They're looking at it as they're fighting for their freedom. They consider themselves resistors. They're resisting the Israelis. And I know it seems difficult. How could you possibly forget what happened on October 7th? I'm not forgetting. But my eyes are still open to everything that happened that led to October 7th. And if we don't have our eyes open to the reason that an October 7th was able to happen, well, then that's on us. That's on us. That's not on Hamas. That's not on the Palestinians that are proving, if nothing else, let's take Hamas out of this for a second. You've got Palestinians in Gaza. Palestinians in Gaza right now who are surviving through brutal attacks. Even when they run for food, they get shot down. And they're not getting shot down by Hamas. People fighting for food and supplies are getting shot at. And the Israelis know that they're shooting at them. They're laughing. They're on videos laughing about this stuff. And it's one of those things that this is Brian talking now. I get the feeling that the Israelis think that they are a better human being than the Palestinians, that the Palestinians are second or third or fourth class citizens. And I liken that to here in the United States during the age of slavery and then during Reconstruction, when the white folks thought that they were that much better than the black folk and the Native American. And unless you have those kind of sneakers on, you don't really see it. You have a mindset that says, well, we're civilized. We know this is the way it should be. How could they possibly survive through all of this? Instead of thinking the way that they're thinking, if we don't survive this, then there's nothing left for not only us, but our posterity. That's their mindset. 508-996-0500. Thought I would just share a little. I know people are listening to this and, they're, how could anybody possibly think like this? Well, sometimes you just have to put on the other sneakers.
Children should be educated and instructed in the principles of freedom.
This is WBSM.
Here's what's happening this week on Town Square Sunday. Kim Goddard has details on AHA Night in downtown New Bedford on October 9th. We'll see plenty of music, a great pumpkin parade, and lots of Halloween fun. Supreme Perfections Dance Studio in Fairhaven is staging a celebrity jail and bail fundraiser this month. Lori Trueheart tells us about the event and who their first jailer will be. And St. Joseph's Church on Spring Street in Fairhaven has a long list of repairs and renovations that need doing. We'll have details on a fundraiser happening on October 11th and 12th, so you can help out. I'm Jim Phillips. Join me for Town Square Sunday. Sunday morning at 6 and 11 on 1420 WBSM and 99.5 FM.
The government may be shut down. Legitimate business funding remains open. See for yourself at legitimatebusinessfunders.com. Legitimatebusinessfunders.com.
Imagine if today was the day your idea changed someone's life. Imagine if you could help someone pay for college, help your community build a new playground, or help a child make it to that dream competition. With GoFundMe, it's all possible. GoFundMe is the world's #1 fundraising platform trusted by over 190 million people. Every week, ordinary people meet their goals and do extraordinary things. Your ideas matter. GoFundMe isn't just for emergencies. Want to raise money for your kid's soccer team or raise funds for a small business, a creative project, or event? GoFundMe helps you turn ideas into reality. And help adds up. Fundraisers you start for someone else raise up to 5 times more. So think right now, who could use your help? Change rarely comes from waiting. It comes from someone deciding, today I'll start. Don't wait for someone else to bring change. Today, start your fundraiser in just minutes at GoFundMe.com. That's GoFundMe.com to start your fundraiser. GoFundMe.com. This is a commercial message brought to you by GoFundMe.
There's no better fool than the Freedom Fools. Now, back to Brian.
I'm sure everybody has been disturbed by the amount of negative and in many cases vitriolic media and commentary that has been produced over the last few days, particularly in the social media environment.
I completely forgot about this story, and I thought it was interesting considering everything that is going on. The Trump administration is trying to get MIT to bend a knee, and it's worked with other colleges, Apple, the company Apple, and we know that there's been an ongoing fight with Harvard. I picked this up courtesy of New Boston Post. Harvard University has hired an associate professor, a professor that basically comes in from another area to teach at its school. Harvard announced over the summer that Kareem Kubchandani, an associate professor at Tufts, would join Harvard's Committee on Degrees in Studies of Women, Gender, and Sexuality. Kubchandani teaches theater, dance, performance studies over at Tufts. He also performs under the stage name of Lahore Vagistan, a character that he created more than a decade ago. The persona has been part of Kubchandani's teaching and performance work, and he has lectured in drag at several universities. Now, what caught my attention when I started reading this in the house, woman friend goes, "What's so funny?" And I told her that Harvard went out and they brought in a drag performer to be a visiting professor. And, you know, that just excited laughs, because everything that Harvard has been going through with the Trump administration, whether you like it, whether you don't like it, you got to look at Harvard and say, well, what are they going to do now? We're going to bring in a drag performer. I have no idea if, any kind of gender part of the drag performer. In 2015, Cub Chandani gave an interview with Johns Hopkins while in character. In the self-interview, he explained the origin of the name. My name is Lahore Vagistan. My preferred pronouns are she or auntie. I chose Lahore because my family traces its origins to Pakistan. Lahore is an important city in Pakistan, and, well, I'm a bit of a whore. And Vagistan because I see the subcontinent as one big, beautiful Vagistan. Whew. I don't know. When our kids go off to Harvard or some of these other schools, we don't know all the courses that they're going to end up taking. I want you to seriously think about this now. You have raised your son, your daughter, whatever, to be the best person that she or he or they can be. And then you send them off to school. And you're talking on the phone one day. So how are your classes, dear? Great. I've got this one class called Queer Ethnography. I did not stutter. Queer Ethnography. This course teaches students how to use ethnographic research, which is studying people by observing and interacting with them in daily life. It looks at gender and sexuality through that lens. How much money does Harvard cost? Now, if you're a doctor, going to be a psychiatrist, psychologist, sociologist, I guess I can understand a class like this. In the spring semester, Cub Chandani is going to be teaching RuPolitics. You know, like RuPaul, and then put the atics in there. RuPolitics, Drag, Race, and Desire. A course that focuses on the television show RuPaul's Drag Race. Got to be honest with you, had no idea that there was even such a show. And I will add to that, if I happen to spin past it on the dial, I'm going to keep on spinning. RuPaul's Drag Race. Harvard said in its announcement that the appointment was made possible by the Harvard Gender and Sexuality Caucus. Whew. How much does Harvard cost? There's a hardworking parent out there who is sending his son or her daughter, whatever the case may be, to Harvard. And they're hearing courses like Queer Ethnography and RuPolitics. I don't know, but I'd like to think that maybe, just maybe, I could talk to my kid's mom and say, do we have to pay for this? RuPolitics? Are we serious? I can't. Look, what else can I say about it? I mean, this is what's going on at Harvard, and we wonder about things that are going on at Dartmouth and New Bedford High School. Hello.
Hey, Brian, how you doing today?
Rue politics, man.
There
Rue
you go.
politics.
Hey, I want to shoot back over to the Israeli thing for a minute.
Please.
If I could.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was in high school in 1967 when they had the 6-Day War, and that, of course, that was a huge thing back then. But I can remember talking to my teachers back then as we looked at maps of the Middle East, and the map of Israel prior to 1948 was the exact map, but it said Palestine. Yet they've constantly said that Palestine wasn't a country. But from 1947, I remember, and I think we went back to 1900, the maps always said Palestine. And then the British took over at the end of the war, and I don't know how they brought the Hebrews or the Jews and whatever the proper terminology is. Do you know anything about that? Why that was as it was?
What do you mean? Why it was what it was? Why did Why were the maps like they were? Why did the British bring the Jews in? Which
the
one?
map wise, it said Palestine, but they'll always say that Palestine wasn't its own country and Palestine isn't a country now. But by map wise, it looks like they just took Palestine and wrote Israel into it. So prior to that, I don't know what that land. I always thought that it was Palestine and the Palestinians lived there, and then it became the home for the Jews. I just never understood that.
Part of it did, not all of it.
Oh, really? Is that what it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me. From what I've been told and what seems to be etched out, part of that land that was known as Palestine has become Israel. And then you've got the West Bank, and then you've got the Gaza Strip. Those are still Palestinian lands. I see.
Okay. Jeez. So I've never really paid attention to it over the years, but just now when it's come to fruition more and more, I look back, I'm saying, boy, I said, what a mess that has been, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
For all.
And I don't know. We'll wait to see what happens. As I think Hamas has been pretty straightforward here. They agree with the hostage part because they had already said that they would do that. It's some of the other things that are the sticking points. And I believe, this is me, I believe that Israel and the United States knew that those other parts would be sticking points.
That's a good probability.
All right?
Yeah. All right, then, buddy. I just wanted to check with you on that, see if you had a little clarity for me in that, because I still look at it foggily ever since 1967.
Well,
See you later on.
And rightfully so. I understand. Thank you. 508-996-0500 is how you can get on to the show today. Let's get to another one. Hello.
Hello, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
So, my child would be coming home to get a job at McDonald's or something if that's what they were learning in Harvard. I would be like, nope.
Come on.
You can work at McDonald's.
Real politics would be good
ridiculous.
for your kid.
Come on. You know what I thought was interesting, though? And I'll be honest with you, because I had questions. I just didn't want, last week when you had the transgender woman on, and she was getting beaten up by that woman, which I may have some of the same feelings as that woman, but I don't think I would have taken it out in quite that way. But I had some, I really wanted to ask her some questions, and what did I know she felt like that at 4 and 8. What did she feel like going through puberty? Did she feel what boys feel during puberty, or you know what I mean? Obviously, she didn't, start a period. I know that, and I wonder if they've ever done testosterone testing on these people that think that way. I mean, if you can be born with 2 different types of genitalia or none at all, could you be born making estrogen when you don't have any ovaries? Can you be born shooting testosterone through your body when you don't have any testes? Do you feel the same way going through puberty as feeling like you were a girl as you would have, whether, you know what I mean?
You've got those kind of questions, and I certainly don't have the answers. I'm not quite sure that I would have thought of. I mean, I think first of all, those are excellent questions that you're asking. I wish you had called to ask her.
I wish I had to, but that woman was kind of beating up on her, and I didn't want to beat up on her, and there wasn't much time left. And then I kind of wanted to call up and say, "Gee, I'm really sorry," and I'm not going to do that. However I feel, I'm not going to call up and just say, you're never going to be a woman. If that's what you think, that's fine. And like I said, there might be some of those thoughts in my head as well, but you don't need to say that to somebody. So I wish I would have got my phone call in before that woman, because maybe we could have gotten somewhere. Because I think there's something to be said for dialogue about what you don't understand. And, to me, that's what Charlie Kirk was about. Talk about these things you don't understand. You might not change your mind about how you feel about them, but you might understand them a little bit better in the end.
I can't argue that. I think you're absolutely that is the reason why I had her come on to the program. And I'm probably saying her. It might be a they or a them, and pardon me for to Victoria. Pardon me if I'm screwing it up, but
she even said that. I understand that it's confusing. She said that. I get that it's confusing. I would, you can correct someone without being mean, and you can say no, it's her, not him. But and I would be fine if someone did that, like I said. But she was on the program. I think she deserves some respect to be talking like that on a program. And I hope you have her back, because I really would like to ask someone. I just have questions about that. Did she maybe have a really low testosterone count, and can they maybe link some of this back to that? And I don't know. I don't know the answer. I know we don't know the answer, and I'm glad that you said that. But it begs the question, and here's where we get into Dr. Mengele type stuff. Let's say that there is a low testosterone count. Do we pump in extra testosterone to make sure that this person realizes he is a he? What do we do when we find out? Excuse me, I shouldn't say we. I think that. Yeah. Well, no. You're right. What I meant is that something that is between a doctor and the patient? Is that something that government is going to interject and say, no, we want all men to be men, all women to be women, and we're going to, institute it that way? Right, and like she said, she did come out with, what about kids that are born asexual? Now, you've got to go by what they feel at a time. They tried these things where they had twins and one wasn't born with anything or with both or something, and the parents chose. And then halfway through the life, they were like, nah, this isn't me. This is, I'm in the wrong body here. And the parents did the choosing, thinking, okay, we'll just cut that off or whatever, or leave that on, and then we're fine. But that's not how it goes. I think there's got to be some input at that point. So I wonder if doing, testing on estrogen and testosterone when their children feeling this way, if it's being done at all, I don't know. But if it is, would it be helpful to try that? I'd rather
helpful for whom?
Well, I'm saying, I'm wondering if you have a low testosterone count and you feel like a girl, but you're a boy, would it be worth trying a little bit extra testosterone to see if that makes any difference?
I'm gonna try my question again. Difference to whom and for what reason?
Well, because I'm thinking, when parents start saying, okay, now my kid's saying they're in the wrong body, and they feel like they're a girl when they're a boy or a boy when they're a girl. I wonder if they do this testing, and if they did have low testosterone, where you already have a young boy's body, and they know the levels in a young boy's body should be at a certain amount of testosterone. If they brought it up to that, would they feel differently?
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is what does the kid want? And at that particular age, can the kid really make a sound decision? I think we run into a lot of hoops and hurdles. Got to let you go only because of time. Okay, but thank you much.
Right, thank you.
Great questions. I appreciate it.
Go where you're treated best.
WBSM.
I am an acne pimple as
Low Cost Air helps you find the best airfares, foreign and domestic. Low Cost Air, 800-221-6085. Low Cost Air, 800-221-6085.
Imagine if today was the day your idea changed someone's life. Imagine if you could help someone pay for college, help your community build a new playground, or help a child make it to that dream competition. With GoFundMe, it's all possible. GoFundMe is the world's #1 fundraising platform trusted by over 190 million people. Every week, ordinary people meet their goals and do extraordinary things. Your ideas matter. GoFundMe isn't just for emergencies. Want to raise money for your kid's soccer team or raise funds for a small business, a creative project, or event? GoFundMe helps you turn ideas into reality. And help adds up. Fundraisers you start for someone else raise up to 5 times more. So think right now, who could use your help? Change rarely comes from waiting. It comes from someone deciding, today I'll start. Don't wait for someone else to bring change. Today, start your fundraiser in just minutes at GoFundMe.com. That's GoFundMe.com to start your fundraiser. GoFundMe.com. This is a commercial message brought to you by GoFundMe.
Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at American-Giant.com.
Hi. Freedom Pools on WBSM. Here's more with Brian Thomas.
And I'll be back Monday for Barry. The next 8 Mondays for Barry. Adios. Have a great one. We'll do it Monday at noon.
Traveling around from town to town. Sometimes I think I'll settle down. But I know I'd hunger to be free. Roving's the only life for me. Adrifting, the world is my friend. I'm traveling along the road.